you start realizing as you get older, you got to you can't push through everything anymore. You've got to learn to adapt to your physicality. If I had to go and spend the time that I did even 6 or 7 years ago on the mat, I'd be damaging myself. So my training's evolved. The way I deal with the situation, I'm probably much quicker to, either disengage or finish the fight even before it starts, whichever one, as opposed to try to deal with the situation. So
Yes.
You're going to learn as you get older, as you get more disabilities. And a lot of people, I'm saying as I get older, but are at that stage when they're in their 30s just because they're not in a martial world.
And it's a hard conversation to have.
Not everybody can just get on a plane and leave. People just think proactive, just not reactive.
Mark, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi, good to be here. It's nice during the lockdown. I've been running around outside in the lockdown, so at home late at night and still working. So,
tell us a little bit about yourself. How did all this get started for you? Where did your passion start for the training and the safety?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Dion for considering me in the top guys. It's always a nice and flattering to hear that from other people. We always just feel like we're in the thick of it and doing the best we can.
Yeah.
My passion for this probably started, son of a parabat, I was probably started when I was about 10, started bunking school in high school and doing martial arts. So went through that. And then I studied biokinetics and sports sciences, but my initial interest was really martial arts, always been in a firearms family, and competed in the old jiu-jitsu side of it, but obviously had the military influence all the way along. Later on in life, I ended up, obviously competed for the South African jiu-jitsu teams and coached and all the rest of that. Ended up living overseas in the States for 8 years, and strangely enough, while I was there, I was competing in different martial arts, jiu-jitsu, kempo, all the rest of it. So I have a great love for traditional martial arts. And I ended up in a really strange job, going from being a school teacher to doing repossession and collection. So
okay,
that was kind of my wake up for the transition. I was doing repo work, and they hired me actually because I was competing as a martial artist. They wanted guys that could fight. Yeah. And I used to get home at night and speak to my wife Kelly and say, "Geez, today I nearly got screwdrivered, and actually I didn't really know what I was doing." And really? I'd won a few world championships by that stage. I'd got my third dan and this and that, and I was going, holy shit, all right, there's got to be some transition to make ourselves practical. So I got involved in the Filipino martial arts from there. System I no longer participate in, but it was a very important stepping stone for me. So moved back to South Africa in 1998, and suddenly we were asked to help some guys with edge weapon work because of our experience I'd done in that job. And then we started really learning.
You train in martial arts and competitive fighting for a long time, and once it comes up close and personal, when you have to deal with the situation, it's sort of interesting with all that martial arts training. It's not particularly practical to handle someone with a knife or a sharp object like a screwdriver, like you said.
It's very much a double-edged sword. I'm a lover and hater of my martial arts career, because what it did give me was focus, discipline, fantastic attributes. I've probably been more nervous and vomited in my gum guard during competition than I've ever been in a real fight. I was always comfortable out on the street. And I'm one of those guys that says, often I'll meet a guy and he has a martial arts background, but he has no understanding of the street world, but he has great attributes. And then you get the other guys that have no respect for a martial artist and say, oh, that's a load of crap. You've never been in a street fight. I think it's almost like the guys will ask me about competitive sport shooting. I have the greatest respect for competitive sport shooters. I believe we can take a lot from the competitive sport shooting world and bring it into combat, but we mustn't try to put our combat into their sports shooting world, because they run on a set of rules, they run on times, and we're going to come second in their world. But just like martial arts, I believe sports shooting's contributed a lot to the combative world over the years. So the attributes come over, but not always the tactics.
All right, so Mark, tell us a little bit about ACT, personal safety.
Well, we have a few arms to our business, and the first one was MDW, which grew out of another nice system that I used to be the head trainer for. My wife Kelly and I started that. She, from the martial arts point of view, she actually was chosen as one of 7 women from around the world to fight on the Atlantic karate team, along with Billy Blanks, so the old school guys.
Oh, for real? Yes.
But besides that, we've always had a passion for transferring skills to not only martial artists, but helping guys every day. And my wife, particularly the woman and children, even though she can shoot is probably better than most of us, including me.
Yeah, but isn't that a fact that women just shoot better than men, right?
Well, they listen better and they can't. It's a generalization, but the point is, so between us, we got back and very involved in the tactical side, and then with the martial arts, I've always stayed involved with that. But about in 2009, we had to make a decision where I continued training coaches. I have some very nice fighters that trained with me in the past. You'll see a young kid called Gary Joshua, he fights in the UFC. But I had to kind of make a decision. Do I stay involved in the martial art world or shift into the combative world? We broke away from that and started Multidimensional Warriors in 2013, after I ended the grappling side of it, formally coaching and stuff. And from there, that was our open stuff where the guys really that were combative wanted to be in be shooting, that's the guy like you and the other stuff. We started running courses for that. And then we realized we would have to split our business because we had a big interest on making a difference to everyday people that didn't have the time to put in their stuff, as well as dealing with corporates and military. So we split ACT into and MDW up. MDW is all our open stuff where I run open seminars, gun, knife, all that. ACT is our corporate and military side, and the ACT personal safety is very much focused on the everyday person thinking about a firearm, their safety, anti-hijacking. And a lot of the world's starting to think that way. It's more about thinking about your safety than actually just the physical part of it.
Yes. Like the mind is also a tool that you have to use in your own personal safety.
That's right. And one of the things, and like I said, I love the martial arts, but I could have taught my daughter to kick, and she trained for many years. I could teach her to kick someone in the groin, hit them under the chin and whatever. But when 2 guys that are well experienced in martial arts, or just a big thug grabs my 19-year-old daughter who's been training her arse off and she hits him under the nose, he's probably going to headbutt her and tip her over. And the psychology of dealing with just being totally outclassed, which is not often taught in your regular martial arts class. There's so many variables out on the street. There's so many more decisions to make. I actually had a discussion a long time ago in the martial arts world with the guys will know him from the movies. His name is Don the Dragon Wilson.
Sure.
And I don't know him very well as a friend. We judged one day together on a tournament, and I said to him, geez, Don, you've never been in a street fight. He says, no, my God, I would never get in a street fight. I'm terrified. The safest place I have is in the ring. The variables are so much different. And if you take someone who doesn't have a martial world, so this is where the ACT personal safety came in, the part of ACT that wasn't our military contracts and stuff like that, or security contracts, was really taking about people making decisions about their safety. And we started initiating that in about 2009. Really, we'd always done it, but formalizing that properly, how do you teach people to think about their safety? And I'm glad that movement started.
But how do you then trigger someone to start thinking like that? I mean, how do you just give them a little bit of a reality check, or how do you approach that in your training?
Yeah, to trigger that, often my wife does it better than anyone. She'll put them in a scenario. We do some of the trainings for the women's safety on the mines and stuff like that, and she'll go out there and share an experience with them, and they suddenly feel very real. People going, oh shit, They've been there. And as soon as they got that association, they start realizing, shit, this is relevant to them. And then you've got to start empowering them to say, I'm going to make a difference. I can do something.
Yes, which is very important. I think that's one thing that needs to be transcended to the students and the people that you instruct, is to have that confidence that you can actually do something.
Yeah.
Whether it's not being physically involved in a fight, or maybe just thinking yourself out of that situation.
Well, I think, as you get older, I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but I can still get on the mat every now and again and survive. But you start realizing as you get older, you got to you can't push through everything anymore. You've got to learn to adapt to your physicality. If I had to go and spend the time that I did even 6 or 7 years ago on the mat, I'd be damaging myself. So my training's evolved. The way I deal with the situation, I'm probably much quicker to, either disengage or finish the fight even before it starts, whichever one, as opposed to try to deal with the situation. So
yes.
You're going to learn as you get older, as you get more disabilities. And a lot of people, I'm saying as I get older, but are at that stage when they're in their 30s just because they're not in a martial world.
That's true. And if you look at the average guy on the street between the ages of, let's say, 30 and 50, you get trapped in a corporate rat race and you're out of shape, stuff like that. And it's something that needs to be taken into consideration, because you're not 25 anymore. You can't run for 3 kilometers away from people trying to stab you with a knife. And
it's about creating context again. If I never had the work responsibilities I had now, I was just discussing it with my wife the other day. I was going, I've got a little push-up regime and my little kettlebells that I kind of go into the room, and I look rather funny. I've become the guy that I used to laugh at when I was 20. The point is kind of keep in shape.
You talked about time now and the way that you manage your time. When do you think is the best time to, work on your personal training? Like you say, do a couple of push-ups, throw the kettlebells around, especially if guys getting older. What would you suggest?
The biggest thing, for example, if you do get involved with the martial art, and I'm a big fan of grappling, I've enjoyed it very long. You got to realize that don't push through injuries, train around them. You got an injury, train around it. Don't stop. That's the key. But it doesn't mean because you got an injury, you're going to push through the push-ups. You got to start learning to listen to your body. And then the biggest thing is to kind of make a sort of ritual and commitment to that. And I have a guy a little while ago. He was actually in the security industry, and he was on one of our courses, and he had a mild heart attack. So I actually developed him a fitness program just doing dry fire. Now his whole family does dry fire, and he's lost 8 kilos a year later. So
goodness.
And there's a gun program that's just very, very simple. We wouldn't even consider it exercise, but that's a step up for that guy. And he's developing a skill while he does it. So I try to combine my skill set and my training more than I would. I don't spend 4 hours warming up anymore. My training and my warm up was each other. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, and just sort of not as hard as you used to go at it.
Yeah.
Just going back now, what you said about multidimensional. That you say that inspiration came out of the fact that you guys liked helping people, like getting a message across and trying to empower people as much as you guys could and can.
Yes, and the term multidimensional came out of, we had to rename what we were doing at that stage. I think that was 2012. We renamed our system and everything, and the term multidimensional warrior, we realized we were more than just an edge weapon system. We had a very good empty hands background. We started doing courses like counter abduction. So we ran counter abduction courses. We realized our firearm side of it. I'd done the firearms instructor stuff way back then. I even did the old John Farnham one in 2002. We did our instructor course with him, which was fantastic. But you always thought of yourself as the knife guys, even though we were doing the other stuff. And we realized, well, you have a lot of context to what you're doing. Our knife skills came out of our pistol skills came out of our knife skills initially. And, obviously you start going, all right, I better work on marksmanship. And then you go, oh shit, what are we doing in a place like Australia where the guy can't carry a blade? So we were linking it, how to use a flashlight in. And that's kind of where the term multidimensional came in, because we realized the blade work is still our focus, because I believe blade work is the mindset for everything. If you can put a blade in someone, you can pretty much do all the other stuff. So it's a good mindset place. And as our core, I like the edge weapons, because from there, even though I started with empty hands as a youngster, if I start someone with edge weapons, it's easy to add empty hand work that's relevant to weapons work. It's easy to add the firearm and in the other side. So from a mindset side, the edge weapons a very good starting point.
Yes. Mark, I quickly want to ask you, we just touched on that now. You said anti-abduction courses. Do you guys have like a few tips that you can maybe share with the audience just on how to sort of equip yourself for a scenario like that?
Again, there's quite a few elements that you have to do, and that's why, again, multidimensional warrior. But the thing that you're looking at there is, obviously everyone tell you be aware, be aware of your surroundings and know what's happening, but nobody tells you how to be aware.
Okay.
So they'll say, be aware, watch his hands. Oh, watching his hands, if I do that, what does a magician tell you to watch his hands? So you actually have to tell people what they're looking for, and so awareness is a key thing. And the first thing would be, we break recognition skills down into situational awareness skills, autonomic awareness skills. Those are all the things like grooming and touching your face and frowning and shoulders coming up. And then mechanical recognition skills, where you see the last minute accessing moves. How do we recognize those? I won't get into the detail of that. Once you've developed those situational, autonomic and mechanical recognition skills, you can start saying, all right, let's look at the specific situation. That's types of counter abduction. So when we run a course, before we ran our first course, we had actually done about 7 or 8 years solid research. I really believe instructors, it's our responsibility to put the research in and get that context created. Once you've done that, you're going to link in the mental aspects of that. What are you going to experience before, during, and after an event? So you really have to go through the emotional things. And something that people won't touch on, I'll tell the people that come on the course, you get punched in the head and you get the bag over your head and thrown in the back of the van. If you're embarrassed because you peed yourself, and that's a big mental leap for some people,
Yes.
And you got to make them aware of the emotional and trauma side that they're going to deal with. If you deal with that before the time, it's easier to deal with it after.
Right.
And then a link to that, you have to empower them. Let's say everything they do is a success. So there's sometimes the guys will say, I'll punch him or I'll do this. But I tell you what, you got two guys with a gun in your face. There's not a time to kick or punch. There's a time. So you teach them, all right, I've made the decision not to fight right now. That's a victory because you're in charge of that decision. Or you make the decision, all right, I'm going to go now. But that's power. Even then you teach them mental aspects, even a small thing like getting a bobby pin in with you or partially getting a piece of rope or getting your feet free is a massive victory.
Yes, absolutely. That's something that people don't even think about. You get stuck at the kind of, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But you have no inkling of what's going to happen beforehand. I mean, shock, adrenaline, I think it's a terrible ordeal for any person to go through, and to be mentally prepared for that. That's a very, very good approach to give to people, that you actually gear yourself.
I think you're 100% right. And what the most amazing thing is, we'll often get a guy who's an ex-military guy or whatever, and young guys, nice guys, smart. And he'll come in and he actually joins the course because his wife's there. He wants her to learn it because he feels he has a responsibility. So she's scared, so he goes with her. And then halfway through the course, you see this guy hitting a wobble. And he's going, shit, I never thought of transferring that for myself, for my wife, for my family. I never thought of being tied up with my wife. he did an escape and evasion course in a military context. It's very different when his wife and child are with him.
Yeah,
And
that's just completely changes the picture.
All apart, and then we fix that.
Wow,
and then the third element would be to teach them the actual physical skills and tips and tricks and how to get out of fights and how to fight restrained. So there's always those elements, the contextual elements linked to the recognition skills, linked to the mindset, linked to the physical skill, and then it needs to be congruent with what happens on the street.
Yeah, that's something I really never really thought about in that kind of context. Like, you think that you'd be able to deal with the situation, but you're really actually not prepared at all.
Yeah, and like I said, when I started doing repo work, I actually got a fright a few times, and I was competing on the circuit on and off, and and thought you were really good, and been in an odd pub fight, but when you have a guy that's on meth that just kicks the door open, I had an example where guy came in with a screwdriver. I did really great, parry, because I just started some Filipino martial arts because I realized I needed some edge weapon work, and I thought I done really well. And next thing, he just backed in his truck. He backed my truck over the road into the pole and rode away. And I stood there like, that's not. I didn't even think of getting ridden over, my car getting smashed, and there I stood, in the middle of the snow.
Jeez,
those are big wake ups, and I'm glad I got that early on in life.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting to me is the fact that the story that you told me where this all started for you, and just the skills that you kept on developing and start picking up, has brought you to this point where you can offer this complete solution for someone who is who needs self-defense in a very serious situation.
Yeah, and I think the thing I'm proudest is sometimes I'm just as proud as creating a great fighter like we used to do. I don't create great fighters anymore, but to train a young scared teenager, as much as like I have my father and those guys, they're all parabets, but their hands haven't been on their gun for a while. They got plastic hips and stuff, and get them on the range and build that confidence up with them, running their old star 9mm again, just getting that feeling back in there, and those guys are more experienced. I always believe in learning from the old warriors, but we can also help back in that way and learn lessons at the same time.
Yes, that's a very good approach to take. Mark, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate your input. That was a really interesting conversation. I think added a lot of value to the audience out there.
Awesome, Bernard. Thanks again.
No, I really appreciate it, Mark. Thanks to you.